Officially, my name is Dave Rivas. This is my friend.
I'm Erik Braa.
And we are voice actors. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. We're mainly here, I guess, for our work in Bendy and the Dark Revival. That's what got us out to the cons. I've been a voice actor for 25 years or so. How long have you been doing this?
About 20.
Yeah, and we've done some stuff. We've done some stuff. We've had some hits, but
we don't have a lot of people here. So if there's any characters that we've done that you want to talk about, absolutely let us know.
Absolutely.
But Bendy came along because it was already a success with Bendy and the Ink Machine, and I think you were in that one.
They keep telling me I am, but I can't. I can't find myself. Didn't you say? Someone say it's like it's the last part of chapter 5. Oh, I'm in the end reel. I thought it was like a...
Near the credits.
I have no idea.
Literally, it just says Dave Rivas.
I'm so proud of my own work. I don't know how it all started. But definitely, I'm the voice of Joey Drew in Bendy and the Dark Revival. And Erik...
I am Porter.
And that fandom... the Bendy fandom is just insanely loyal and just outrageous and
awesome,
hardcore,
and cosplayers.
Yes, and so we started. There was such a demand to interact that we started doing monthly streams to interact with the fans and to do like autograph signings and stuff like that. And through that, we were doing pretty consistently once a month for the first year or so. We became great friends. This morning is the first time Erik and I met in person for the first time.
We've talked a lot, but we've never actually met in person.
I feel like we've been friends for years. I feel like we got kicked out of high school together. But yeah, it's all that way with all of the voice actors from Bendy. But anyway, now that we're doing cons and stuff, we're trying to bring to light other work that we've done. Well, at least I am. For Erik, people are running up to his table and going, "Oh my God, I love you so much! Everything you've ever done."
This is not true. This is not true.
They're like, "How much to sign my?" And then like,
not sure I have a flesh pen. Hold on.
So apparently the questions that I moderated for ourselves are just stuck on my iPad. But I mean, you know.
Turns out the cloud is a lie.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know if it's Sacramento per se, that the Wi-Fi is just bad everywhere, or it's the motel.
Or it's the Scottish
yeah. Or it's the check-in but don't check out hotel I'm staying at, because it didn't transfer over. But anyway, it's the standard stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like we've been doing this for 25 years. How did you get your first start?
My very first gig?
Yeah, not your first gig, but how did you get in? What did you find yourself doing that you?
I worked in the video game industry actually, and I did testing. It's a very mind-numbing task. So you sit there running into a wall to make sure that it's actually there, and because there's collision, there's art, they're all different things, and so I would sit there, and at the time South Park was huge, and say, "I hate this game," and producers would walk by, and they're like, "Oh, you do funny voices, and are you interested?" I was like, "Yeah." And every now and again they'd say like, "Oh, we have a bunch of minions to do in this new game," and so they'd let me go in and do, there he is, and so I started doing that, and then one fine day I met Terry McGovern. Who was my mentor, and he said, "My young man, if you want to act, you should, or voice act, you should learn how to act." And I said, "That's a very good point." And so I started doing his class, and then worked on a demo. And while I was taking his class and doing acting scenes, scene study, and then I got into doing more voiceover, and I made a demo and I submitted it to an agent. And the day that I signed with my first agent was the day that I was told I was also going to be doing Papa Smurf and a doll. And so it was my birthday that year, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best birthday ever.
Wow.
And then I got to go do Papa Smurf, and then was replaced about a month later by the Belgians. They decided that J.S. Gilbert was better, but J.S. couldn't sing, so that doll that came out actually has me singing, but J.S. doing the lines. So that's just one of the mishmash Frankensteins that can happen in this business.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, no, it was super fun. I was Papa Smurf for at least a few.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And no, Lonnie wasn't one of the Smurfs, was she?
I don't know, but Lonnie was the one that got me into Bendy, introducing me to Lauren and everybody else through the Meatly. So yeah, that was how I got into Bendy. You got in because of Lonnie, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a story
Lonnie
there, Dave.
that we're speaking of, Lonnie Manella, is a voice actress that is also a voice actor, audio director, and she casts like all these games that we've done. I've worked with Lonnie for like 25 years. I'm from San Diego. Lonnie lives in San Diego, and we all used to record at Bill Corkery Studios about 25 years ago. That's when we all started. I was attracted to the biz. I was working at the fire department. I was a paramedic and a 911 operator, a former actor, but gave that up for the real jobs. But I was still attracted to it, and found myself attracted to the commercials, and I grew up with Looney Tunes and all that stuff. Just loved all that classic animation
His
and stuff like
Lordship
that.
Mel Blanc.
I'm right there. What?
His Lordship Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc. Yeah. Anything.
I mean, if there's anybody that could just do like so many different characters and make them sound very distinct.
Yeah. And I'm still convinced that for animation, Mel Blanc, there is no greater for like straight movie promo. Don LaFontaine is like, is like the Jesus of voiceover. Yeah. We just honored him earlier by doing his tag. But no, I was taking a voice. I started looking for. I started actively seeking out voice acting, and anything that had to do with speech. I took speech classes, and then I found a voiceover workshop in San Diego. And then I met. I was just telling you this earlier. The 10 people in this workshop, I instantly found that, oh my gosh, we're all total geeks that need help. These people are just like me. They like to play like me. They goof off like me. I am home. And one of those guys' name was Mark Biaggi, who was already working with Lonnie Manella. And they said, hey, we need an extra voice for this helicopter game we're recording this week. And my first lines were like left, right, fire. And then I've been working with Lonnie ever since. And if it weren't for Lonnie, there's so many voice actors that wouldn't be where they are, because she gets them in, gives them a shot, and and then we take over and do the rest. But then Lauren Singer, who is also a product of Lonnie Manella's casting and direction, Lauren kicked the door open at Joey Drew Studios and pretty much cast herself as Alice Angel. She got in contact with the Meatly and said, I want to play Alice Angel. And the Meatly said, okay. And then made her the audio director of Bendy and the Dark Revival. And she called me up through Lonnie, and they said, this other guy voiced Joey in the first game, and the first game's just got a huge following. And if you take on the role for this new version of Joey that we're coming up with, you're probably going to have to start doing fan cons and traveling the world. And, well, here I am. They were right. That's
all the way to the capital of California.
Yeah. And that's how we got here. Who are you? We mentioned Mel Blanc. Don LaFontaine. Did you have any other like styles or that you were attracted to?
I was just a mimic. I remember like having Hot Wheels, and every car had to have a different voice. You know?
That's cool.
The trucker had to sound this way. You know, like everybody had to sound different. So I mimicked, and it used to tease my dad a lot. Sorry, I just did that to myself. I lost him earlier this year, but he he loved the fact that I would do impersonations, and I would just steal them from like SNL, like, you know what I mean? I'd watch Saturday Night Live, and and jelly beans, and so I would just start doing stuff to make him laugh, and then before I knew it, I would start doing different voices. I started picking up on things and going, oh, I like that. So, and then we've always talked about the best way to create a new character is just do an impersonation of somebody you can't do well.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you try to do an impression of somebody and it's not spot on, well, nobody else knows that. That's the creation of a brand new character that is brilliant and all your own, you know?
Right,
and that's
then they're like, oh, that is brilliant. How'd you come up with that character?
Yeah.
I was trying to do Shatner.
Yeah, it's a bad impression.
It's
of
a bad
William
impression.
Shatner.
Yeah.
Like
So that's kind of how it got started. I was familiar with video games because I'd been working in them, and then I knew what they'd want when I'd go in. I'd look at what it was, and I'm like, oh, this is this kind of game. They want the line delivered fast. They don't really care about having emotion to it or having extra, or breaths or anything like that. So it made it really easy when I started working. They were like, yeah, he seems to get it.
Yeah.
So I would get hired more often, and there happened to be a studio. My last video game job was around the corner from a upstart studio that was doing these games. And I would go over there on like my lunch break and do a session and then go back to work. And then I finally got laid off from my video game job because the company was going under. Not very well managed. But I loved it. I mean, I really loved doing the work. And then that was it. I was like, well, now I'm out here in the breeze. I've got a demo. I better just start doing this. And so I submitted it and luckily got in, and then I was doing it on the regular, kind of for a long time.
So
and that little studio called Somatone was where I went in one day and did a character who ended up becoming Jax for League of Legends. And I had nobody knew what League of Legends was. It was just a game. It's another game we're going to go do, whatever.
It's a capture the flag game.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. So I did that, and then it took a few years, and my friend Adam reached out to me and goes, that game's like the most played game in the world. And I was like, really? I had no idea. And he's like, yeah. And then they put out an audition for Draven, and Draven happened to be this. I already had this character. Like I always tell young voice actors, like when you want to get started, one of the things you need to do is create like a smorgasbord of characters. Whether you put them in a Excel spreadsheet, or you have them in your head, or you number them, or whatever it is that you do to organize them. But I had a guy named Johnny Dammit, and he was like a noir detective.
That's great.
And then when I got the audition, they said, well, we want more pro wrestler. So I went from this to, oh yeah, and then that was it. I ended up getting Draven. They made me audition a couple times, actually. It was kind of killer. I was like, oh really? I feel like I got this. And then they finally hired me for it, and then that one was I was really happy to get that because I knew at that point how big the game was.
That's so cool.
And then later it was Vel'Koz was the other one and actually because they put all the effects, you can't tell really what I'm doing, but I'm basically just doing Hannibal Lecter.
Thank you for your contribution.
Nice. That's very nice.
And then they put all these effects on it, and they have a reverse going, and
fly.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's very cool. You mentioned that new people starting in the biz, you should keep a smorgasbord. And I tell my students, if you think of something, if something comes up, you put it in your phone and keep an audio log of it that way. And you said did your dad tell you that he liked the voices you were doing?
Oh, he'd always laugh, so I knew I'd getting him. I knew I was getting him. But the other thing is like just being a people watcher,
Yes.
I have a voice character that when the right thing comes in, I go, oh, that's Door Guy. And Door Guy was because it was a windy day in San Francisco on O'Farrell Street, and there was a building next door to my girlfriend's building, and this guy comes out the door, and he let go of the door, and the wind blew the door back into the other guy. The other guy goes, Jesus Christ, almost killed me with the door. And I was like, well, then that's what I'll use next time I need somebody like that. So that's Curmudgeon Guy, but I just call him Door Guy. But it doesn't matter how you organize these things. You just put them in there and you have them in your brain and they swim around until the right thing comes up and you go, oh, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah, it's great because you're mentioning that you're doing this on your own and you're creating these characters and you're storing them to be used at a later date. Now, in case you don't know, what happens when we get casting for video games, they'll send us like a picture of what the character looks like. And then they'll give us the vital statistics as 40 years old, from the Bronx, a gruff burnout cop that is from Mars originally, that kind of sounds a little like Clint Eastwood and a little bit like Danny DeVito. And then so that's like their rough outline. And then so your job as a voice actor is, now it's easy because we've got YouTube, but back in the old days, I had to go find I had to go to the certain video stores that had all those movies. And my research was watching Danny DeVito movies or Danny DeVito movies or Clint Eastwood.
On video.
Yeah, just to research a role. And what are you doing home? You haven't done anything on your research.
Yep. Yep. Why are you watching a movie? I'm doing research.
I'm doing research. And then you put together your version of what you think that character sounds like. You send it to the client, and they go, yeah, that's what we want. And then you get in studio, and then you usually don't remember what you gave them, and they play it back for you. Then you have to match your own voice, and then you're like, okay, I'm back on my own voice. And then you have writers, and then they're going, well, I thought he was fatter. Oh, now he's fatter. And then I thought he was older. And now, okay, now he's older and fatter. And then he had some grovel. Okay, now he's older and fatter and he has grovel. And so they kind of mold and need you, and that's how you kind of build a voice in studio. But yeah, it's great that you're doing it before you get there.
Well,
and whipping
it's
stuff
just
out on
those
them.
are the pieces that I'll put together and wait for them to tell me what else they want. But some of them they don't tell you anything or have no photo, and you're like, I don't know what you're doing here. But it just depends. I mean, I did Gallagher, and it was all code named. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what game it was. And they're like, well, he's like a bartender, but he's also like I guess he's like a security officer or something. And I just said, well, he's just a cool guy. I mean, he's just like, hey, man, indulge yourself.
Yeah.
Here's to the imperfect tomorrow.
Yeah, and then, okay, so then you give them what I call a baseline voice.
Right.
And then they proceed to tweak you up and down. Like for Porter, it came out originally more like a Winnie the Pooh.
It was
type.
that was basically what they wanted in the casting doc.
Was that more Joker-ish, or was that somebody else?
No. What happened was Winnie the Pooh was the base for Porter, and so I was like, oh goodness, okay. And I just started going there, and then the problem was when they wanted him to scream, try not to die. I went, try not to die! And they were like, and Lauren was like, you sound like the Joker. I don't think this is appropriate. We want something not quite as mean. So that's what turned it into try not to die! Try to, lighten him and make him a little better. And it's funny because it's not most people go, oh, you have the big deep voice for all this stuff. And I'm like, yes, but I love doing these kind of things.
Yeah. That's so great. And that's what's, well, I think it's interesting. I don't know if you think it's interesting, but
people have already left.
Yeah, I mean, that one guy walked out. I'm like, oh my God, we're dying here. I did a recent interview where they were talking to me about the Joey Drew voice, and they said, how did you come up with that? And it's like, well, there's many elements. There was an original guy that this kind of had to be based on, but this version has different elements. He was kind of like a crabby old guy in the first game, but this one he's realized he's made some mistakes. He has more heart. He's trying to make amends, but he already has a blueprint laid out in the first game. He's a rough and gruff businessman and all kind of mean and stuff like that. But he's Joey Drew, and he created Bendy, so he's also kind of a dreamer. He has almost a little Jimmy Stewart in there at times. Yeah. And so to combine those elements, and then working with Lauren on this, he's also has heart because he's got, well, spoiler, he's got a family members in the second game, and that he really cares for, and he's trying to help throughout the game. and so we're trying to combine all those elements. So we have the gruff guy, and then he kind of drifts off into what's happening in the studio, and he kind of has these elements and these rhythms that was really kind of fascinating and fun for me. But then he has heart and Audrey. and it's also very emotional and stuff like that. So and people just go like, I thought you just did the voice. Well, you do, but there's some process.
There's that little bit that actually, you know, like the game developers will take all the credit, but there's times that you put a little bit of it into it, like making it the character that it is, and then they're like, oh yeah, thank you, you did great. Yeah. Here's your check, bye. And they make billions, and you're like, okay, well, that was fun.
Yeah, in the old days of animation, like the old black and white Popeye cartoons, they would animate first, and then the voice actors would come in and lay their voices on top of the animation. That's where you get a lot of little mumblings with the Popeye, because they're trying to mix some stuff up to match the voice flap when he actually opened his mouth. They that was kind of like static noise until he opened his mouth. But for the last, I don't know, probably 50, 60 years, they record the voice first, and the animators animate to that.
With the exception of like localized stuff, like a lot of the Asian, like Honkai Star Rail, for example, there was things that, you know, they've already done it in Chinese, or if Korean,
you're dubbing,
you know, Japanese. So they were like, well, you have this much time to deliver this line.
Yeah, which is hard.
For those of you that have ever watched like an anime, I mean, like, why is he delivering this line like he's on speed or something? Like, and it's because he's like, well, they want this much information in this amount of time.
Or a dubbed foreign movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because you're trying to get everything they're trying to say in that bit of a mouth flap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
The mouth flap stuff too is interesting because sometimes they'll change what the character's actually saying so that they get the flap right.
Yeah.
And like I did Sandland, which is on Hulu now. But yeah, I did Sandland, and there was a few moments where they were like, yeah, but if we changed it to this, like, you know, instead of saying run away, it would be like, we should run away or something. Like, it would make the flap work, and they'd be like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So it's an interesting business for sure, and it puts you on your toes. Master Koga was another one that was already done in Japanese for Nintendo. And so I was like, well, I have this much time, or he does this maneuver. Luckily, he had a mask on, so there was no lip flap. Yeah. But there was things he would go like, hey, you know, like, so I had to go like, this isn't what you said it would be. You know, like, so you had to match the body movements now, but instead of like a lip flap. But it's interesting because it puts you.
It adds something to the character.
Yeah, and it really puts you on your toes because you're doing it, you're watching it live, and you're saying it right as you're doing it, and it's almost insane at times.
I did that for a game called Runaway Road Adventure. It was a game out of Spain, and then it was already done in Spanish, and then I was doing an American version. Then we did Runaway 2, The Dream of the Turtle, and same thing. And you're watching the game, you're watching the animation and the movements and I was a guy named Joshua, and Joshua I had to talk like this. And it didn't match, but it just made for a quirkier, weirder character, and it was kind of fun. But what I was originally getting at was when you do your voice and you add all this acting and this performance in it, and later on you hear from the animators like, yeah, it was really fun to animate to your performance, and that really, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And plus, what you hear like at places like.
I mean, that also goes both ways, or you know, the other way too, where I was in Starfield, and I was not a major character in Starfield. I'm only in there for a minute. And, like, they didn't choose to animate very much. So, like, they probably had AI animating him or something. So while I'm going, like, really? Well, that's an interesting theory. You know what I mean? Like, but the animation just goes, really? That's an interesting theory. And I'm like, nothing? You don't give me anything?
I thought that you were gonna do like it was gonna be like an anime where it's just kind of like a slow pull in, like a Ken Burns effect. Really, kind of twisting. What else do you want to talk about? Or do you want to open it up to?
Please ask questions.
Does anybody have any questions about voice acting or the games or how you get started or anything like that? No. Yeah. Yes. Welcome back. Hello. Hi. That's a really interesting question because I have no idea how to respond to that.
I mean,
no, actually, because I don't know a whole lot about the fandubs. We're in fandubs. Like with the Injustice.
Oh yeah, we did do an Injustice
We're
one.
in
Yeah.
Injustice. I think I'm the Green Lantern. Or
No, I'm
something.
Green Lantern.
No, I think I'm.
No, I'm Green Lantern.
I'm somebody with an arrow. I don't know.
You're Green Arrow.
I'm Green Arrow. Yeah, something like
I'm Green Lantern.
I'm not Superman. I know that much. I'm the Green Arrow.
I wanted to be Batman. Damn it.
And when we even met, I'm like, what's this whole fandub thing? What do you
I mean,
do?
the thing is like, you know, they're fans, so they want to service what they want to see. So they're going to write things that are, you know, fan service. So it makes sense and it's fine. I mean, you know, if they had a budget, they'd hire us to do the voices.
But it is a completed project already, or is a original?
It's usually
animated?
taking something existing and sort of like making it what they want. Like the one we've done, actually, I think he actually literally does a lot of it in the fighting game.
It's a Lexor,
It's like the Injustice fighting game.
Yeah.
He uses that, and then he'll like, oh, I want him to stand like this, so he'll move the character,
Yeah.
and like, it's like Red versus Blue or whatever, the old Halo one.
Yeah.
Where you just use the game to actually model and do all of your characters.
Yeah.
It's painstaking, and God bless you for wanting to spend the time. It's wonderful.
See, that's
and
the part I don't understand.
And
It's
I have
like-
no problem if somebody wants to emulate the voice to do the fandub. That's cool. I mean,
Yeah, and I'm all about if you want to hire me for a gig, yeah, I'll do it. But I think it's more interesting about what the original game devs feel about that. Because again, yeah, if you want to work with me, if you like my voice, if you want me to do a voice for you, your project, your wedding, your phone, your message on hold, that's what I do. So I'll do it. But I think it's just interesting, you know, like when people ask us to, when we first started doing streams, people would say, "Can you say, you know, welcome to your Xbox One in the Joey Drew voice?" And I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I can get in trouble for saying that.
well, there is stuff that like we're not allowed to do. Like you could reach out and go, "Hey, will you do this in such and such voice?" And you're like, "I can't," because I would be speaking for the character, and then the developer would be very angry.
And then some people would contact us and say straight up, like, "We're big fans. Could you say these words for me in the certain voice because I want to reanimate it and, you know, show it to my friends?" I'm like, I definitely can't do that. If you contact the original game devs or the Meatly in particular, who created Bendy and the Dark Revival, and if I get a word from them that I can do this, I absolutely will. But otherwise, I mean, there's just stuff I can't do. The thing is I don't own the voice. I just work for the people that created the character that has the voice. So I'm basically an employee, and I can't abuse the privileges of the shop or the company, you know.
Any other questions? Just she has another one.
Yeah. Okay. We've got about 15 minutes. So.
Do we?
Yeah, we
Oh,
got about 20.
I thought we were running out of time. I was like, all right, these people are
I
already
wanted to
ready
open
go.
up because I thought it was going to be a deep.
They're like, the food truck is
enriching-
open.
Yeah. No, but yeah, go ahead.
With all your experience within the voice acting industry, within games, as well as animations and a couple of Injustice things, what has been the most inspiring experiences? And you don't have to get like super detailed or copyright laws or this, but what experiences do you think would help younger or up and coming people, and what experiences would you say you should avoid, or if that sounds suspicious?
Well, I wasn't quite getting. At first, when you were asked that question, I was like, "Oh, let me tell you this experience that really warmed my heart." But because I do sleep stories, and I've had people send me messages saying like, "I've suffered from insomnia for years, and now I go to sleep," and I'm like, "Oh, you know, like that feels really good." But as far as the experience of like working in video games, I guess I don't know. Do you have any?
I would just say, yeah, I appreciate bringing the acting element, the performance element to the gig, whatever it is. Like, I think I'm a pretty good actor, but I've gotten a lot of compliments over the performance of Joey Drew in Bendy and the Dark Revival and what it means to the fans, and I love that. And we're on the verge of a world that's crossing over into the whole AI thing right now, and as actors, as talent, some of that's being taken away from it, and all of us, actors and people who enjoy the arts, are also having something taken away from them, which is the human element, the art, where it's originally created. And so I think it's kind of watered down and sterilized in that aspect. No matter how good it is or how much it sounds like you're still missing that human factor. And then what's next after that is what scares me.
You did ask about like what you would warn people from. I'd warn people from going too far in doing friends games and things like that. Like you do you get a few credits, like indie games and things like that, where you're not really getting paid a lot. I would say, like, remember to value yourself and what you do, and that even though they're going to balk at you saying, I want to be paid to do the work that I'm doing, it creates the value in your own mind too. So if you're a beginner and you're like, well, I'll just do these free things to try to get some credits, it's like, well, do a few, maybe a couple, but at some point you have to say, like, look, man, I'm worth the money. I'm worth the time. So pay me to come do it. I mean,
well, yeah, and that might sound a certain way, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. I mean, to get that first gig, I mean, it's hours and days and weeks, months of your life going to the acting classes, going to the workshop, practicing your technique, working your studio, investing in equipment. I always call it investing. I never buy a microphone. I invest in a microphone because it's going to help me get somewhere. And once I get that gig is going to help me pay for that microphone. So I always look at it as an investment. So it's a lot of work getting to a certain point. And when that certain point is, can you voice our wedding announcement for free or for $5? And I'm like, I wish I could, but you know what? I can't, just because I'm narcissistic, stuck up and conceited and all that. But it's also lowering the bar for all the other professionals that are out there that also work.
The folks that do stuff on Fiverr or they've already given their voice to AI, and every TikTok you see has the same voice in it. It's because, somebody went, I don't care, and they did it, and now they have a cheap version of that guy for basically nothing, and it doesn't necessarily help the rest of us.
There's a strange game that you play when you're in the industry, and there's kind of like private contractor talent actors, and then there's union talent. And union talent make a bigger, higher wage scale, but they also have certain conditions that they have to stick to. They get paid a certain way, but they also get treated a certain way. They work for so long, and breaks or whatever in different areas of entertainment. But the non-union people, you can kind of make up your own prices, do whatever you want, that type of thing. The client, whether it's a sound engineer, a recording house, or it's a game company or somebody recording a commercial, nobody ever has money. They never want to spend money, and they want to see, hey, can you do it for like $100? And they'll take it if they can. But the people with the agents that were applying for that same job, they wanted like $1,000 or something like that. If they go with $100, now you have the agents and that part of the industry upset with you. It's like, well, you just lowered the bar, and how can we keep this? How can we pay our talent? How can we stay in business? There's all that, and you don't want to be the bad guy. You just want a gig. You just want to do the job and have fun.
And we love what we do. So I mean, there's no lying about that. I mean, I absolutely love, like, when I get it, when they're like, you're booked today, I'm like, yay. Like, it makes my day great. I'm very happy to do this, and being able to pay my bills, I shouldn't have to dream about that,
You've probably heard this before, but I literally do get paid now to do the stuff that I used to get in trouble for in high school, like just making noises and goofing off, and I used to get sent to the office for that. Now they're like, that'll be $2,000, Dave. Thanks for being a goofball. I'm like, hey, cool. What else you want to talk about? Anything? Anybody?
Anybody? Nobody?
Seth, you got any questions? No, it's all right. All right. JT?
I don't know. I mean, there's not much I can think of in the moment right now.
Okay.
And
All right, thanks, JT. How about over here?
that's pretty much
No. Anybody over here have any questions? All right. You look so familiar in the middle. You, sir, with the beard. Where do I know you from? Were you at Denny's last night? No.
Last Friday.
No, you have I swear I could have met you. Are you an actor?
Yeah, I've done a few things. I've voiced a couple of
Okay.
video games.
All right. That's where I know you from. Hey, how you
We
been?
probably looked you up to figure out how to do your voice or something.
AJ Kirsch and I did voice for WWE 2K19.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I know I've seen your face.
Yeah,
I've probably
yeah,
seen
yeah.
you online somewhere or something like that.
I tried to do it one of the 2K wrestling
It's probably
games.
Ben Affleck,
There was like
and I just
a
don't remember. I can't-
greenhorn
I'm
or
not
some
recognizing
sort of.
it.
Oh, all right.
I ended up becoming Baron Blade.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I auditioned for it, and they were like, "Yeah, we really like you," and they were like, "Cool. We shave off the beard because it's motion capture and facial capture," and I said, "Oh, well," and I happened to be at my agency. And my on-camera agent stood up and goes, "No!" And I was like, "Why? I mean, it's not that big a deal." And they were like, no, we're booking you right now on camera." And at the time, I was booking some on-camera stuff, which now, not so much. But yeah, I was. So they were like, no, don't shave the beard. And I mean, I wasn't saying I had it. I was just saying, like, they were like, they're interested. Will you do it? I'm like, So obviously, they found a better actor.
Well, that's an interesting point that you make because, always be prepared to try to, know your lines because I didn't get it either. Another guy got it, showed up first day for the motion capture and hadn't had anything memorized. So they let him go.
Yeah.
My agent about a week later and said, "We filmed all the stuff we were talking about, trying to, where they do the animation first and you have to splice it in.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do in the studio wearing a headset was to try to fit my lines into the actions that were there."
Yeah.
And you had to loop somebody else's mocap.
Yeah, it was.
That's
it was
good.
they did my mocap face.
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
And superimposed me on the body of.
Right.
That's an interesting.
It's
gig.
funny. It's funny the road that it takes sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the different ways you can get into that, and whether or not they started with you, and then they wouldn't have had to do all that. But then they were like, "Nah, this guy's just not off book. We can't handle it." Like, and it is hard because that is facial captions, stuff like that is definitely hard because it's more akin to like stage acting or film acting.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be off book. You need to know your lines. You need to know what where your spots are, where you're looking at things.
Yeah.
It's a much more theatrical kind of thing for sure. It's
Yeah.
less
yeah.
so than just I make a silly voice. Now animate to that.
Yeah. That's a whole like you block out the scenes and stuff and the movement and all that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
It's been fun. They had me back for the other ones, do little cameo stuff.
That's cool.
Sweet. Fantastic.
And you're doing that down in like Petaluma or something? Or? Yeah. Yeah, I went there one day to do, oh boy, you want to talk about bad experience. I went there, I thought I had the part. And all I was the guy in the suit. And I would deliver all the lines. It was a Russian character. And I was like, "Hey, we'll mow them down. Don't worry about it." So I guess they had that other guy doing that to me, I guess. Because I was the character. And they had us in the little suits with the dots and all that stuff, or the ping pong balls or whatever. And I remember they handed us these big, like, C-stand pieces. They were very heavy. But it was supposed to be this giant gun.
Yeah.
And he's like, "All right, now jump down off this platform onto the
Oh,
ground."
no.
So you had to jump down, like, "Ugh," and you had to see the weight of the gun.
Yeah.
All of that. But it's just a big bar. That's all I was
Yeah.
holding. But yeah, they stick it in the program and boom. It's one of the reasons that SAG is on, video games are on strike right now, is that the mocap performers are going in there and they're doing like And I mean, we're talking people that are probably gymnasts or acrobats
you
and stuff
need
like
like
that,
a
and they're
stunt
going and doing a
coordinator from-
backflip, right?
yeah.
And now the companies are like, cool, we'll just store that backflip and add any model on top of it that
Yeah.
we want.
Yeah.
And the actors are like, no, wait a minute, man, you're taking away all my bread and butter here. Like I come in to do this backflip for you, you know? Come
Yeah.
on, dance, monkey. Like I do my thing, right?
Right.
I do the dance. You know what I mean? So. That's one reason that everybody's upset right now. It's like, oh, you just want to store everything, and
Yeah.
then like that happened in the on camera as well. That actor strike was a lot about like the extras who get, I think it's up to $190 for the day. I think that's it. You do like an extra work where you're just one of the people on the street. Well, they wanted to hire you for the 185 or 190 day, scan you, and then never hire you again and use your digital image in the background because they can
Forever
put CG
and
in
ever and ever.
forever and ever.
Yeah.
So they could just stick you in anywhere, in any clothing. They could totally adjust you whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
They just wanted your image so they could steal it. And I was like, that's really rude. I mean, I understand that these films cost a lot of money, but come on, man.
Yeah.
This is an instilled cost to your production. Like it's having extras and things.
Yeah.
Kind of the basis of Crispin Glover to George McFly.
Yeah. And he won
Suing and he won because they used his imagery from the first one.
for the other Back to the Futures. Yeah.
He's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won, and that changed the standard in SAG-AFTRA too.
Yeah, it's all those little things that add up to. I mean, these are all the things that we fight against, I guess, in a way. Like we have to protect ourselves as best we can, and luckily, when you get into a guild and a union, you have people that help back you up like that, because that's important. I mean, it's the same thing as, I think, in a way, to the folks that are on Fiverr that are devaluing everything, and you're like, come on, man, you're just making us all look bad, and you're letting them think that they can pay $5 for somebody to
Yeah.
do something, and it's like, it shouldn't be that way. Like, this is something that, well, you can't do it, you're looking for somebody to hire, right? So like,
Yeah.
if you could do it, you would just do it. It wouldn't cost you anything then. So yeah,
I had a new animator contact me. It was someone who had been a chef in Texas their whole life, and they've decided they were going to cross over to being an animator and a director of video games or something like that. And they asked me, I have these 5 different characters, and one's like this, one's like this, one's like this, and there was a big outline on what the characters sounded like, what they've been through, and I'm like, okay, I'll help you out, and I gave her really good different takes on all these different characters, and then she said, that's great. I think you'd be great for this probably like all 5. And they go, how much would you charge for that? And I go, well, it would be probably for that many characters and non-union, no agent involved. I would do this much per hour with a 1 hour minimum, and then I would charge break it down by a quarter hour after that, and then. Something like that. And then she came back with that's ridiculous. I could get the guy who did a voice at Disney and this and on Netflix right now for $100. And I'm like, if you can get that, what are you talking to me for?
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
get that guy that's established, that's doing Netflix and all that for $100. Heck, yeah, do that for sure. And then they kept giving me a hard time. That's unreal. How could you charge that much? I'm like, that's like bare minimum what I do.
Right.
Those are like
right.
friend rates.
Yeah, it is.
You're coming in with I don't know anything about this industry rates. I'm offering you $25.
They literally had a game that came out not too long ago that was all AI voiced, and everyone said that the voices are terrible. They liked the game, though. They were like, I enjoy playing the game, but I turn off the sound. I don't want to hear them because they're just really not good. And I'm like, well, that's why you hire a real person.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, you're starting out. You're trying to figure out how to do it.
I get it too. As a producer, as a editor, I mean, heck yeah, I would love to store those pixels and just use them over and over and use. It's cost effective. It would make my work easier and save time and stuff like that. But
You were talking earlier about, as part of your character, you'll sit there with the developer, producer, and you'll have a voice, and then they'll have a suggestion, you kind of workshop it.
tweaked, yeah.
Do you see that as being a big limitation with AI, is the ability to have your talent, the person that's actually doing the voice, interpret, understand, and put their own in, as opposed to just being some program that took your work?
I mean, yeah, the AI, they can do a lot of stuff now, I will admit. Like, they can make adjustments to your AI version. But for the most part, like, I mean, it's I don't even know what it's at the moment.
You know, as an actor, the way I've found characters on the spot is having that process, them tweaking us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, there will be a writer. We don't like writers in the room because they do it too much. But they'll say like, yeah, can you make them older? Can you make them fatter? Can you make them gravel? This or that. They all take turns tweaking you until they all go, yeah, I like that, I like that, I like that. And then the engineer will say, let's roll. And you freeze that, they record it, and then a page later you start drifting away and they play it again to get back on. If we didn't have that process, we wouldn't have those characters. And if you had an AI voice based on that original character, how are you going to develop new original works like that? You know, it's like the technology's taking over the artistic creative process.
Yeah, and I mean, like I told the story earlier, we were talking, and I know Roger Jackson, who did he's the voice in Scream and all that, but he also did Mojo Jojo in the Powerpuff Girls. And he was actually hired, was in the session, and they were like, listen, Roger, we love what you're doing, but we're kind of taking a new twist on this, and he needs to have more of like a samurai kind of sound. Well, he's I was saying, like, he's a huge fan of Kurosawa. So he's like, okay. And he was already going something like, whatever, And then he goes, okay, yes, I can do that. I'm Mojo Jojo. And so he added that note, and now all of a sudden there was Mojo Jojo. But it was only because they already said, like, bring Roger in, and then we'll adjust him or whatever. And that's the thing is, yeah, I suppose now there's maybe an AI that you can make a few gruff button. I don't know, like, but I don't think it's ever going to completely do what a human voice can do. I love the human voice. It means so much to me.
It's not organic.
And it means a lot to me that we can use our voice to do many things for people, whether it's entertain them in a video game. Like I said earlier, I put people to sleep with it. Like, good evening. Tonight we'll take a journey. Like I like. I think it's important that the human voice is the thing that sort of maintains in a lot of ways. Like, keep that. We can't lose that because Terry used to talk about all the time, some of the best voices you've ever heard have a little garbage in the voice.
Yeah.
And it's always these guys, and it's usually what you'll see in a document where they're like, oh, sort of like this. And you're like, yeah, okay, well, listen, I'm Gary Busey. But it's all that garbage you hear when he's in between words.
It's the squeak in your guitar string when you're changing frets.
I think we're getting the high sign and have to get out of here. So
thank you, everybody, for showing up. We'll be back at our table, and you want to continue our conversation, we'll do it over there.
Yeah, we like talking. Why not?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're getting kicked out.
I kind of want to stay in here. It's so cold over here.
Yeah, there's a nice breeze.
I could cut glass right now. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I just want to stand here all day. I love it frigid. Everybody else is like, I'm cold. I'm like, not me.